Now, this is the thing, I was telling my students that music is often a thinking person's game. If you're really trying to be a musician, it's like how much were you thinking there, or was it a lot of it subconscious? Were you drawing on like muscle memory, or were you actively like, okay, I'm here, I'm here right now, I'm thinking, where do we go from here? Like, can you
I'm glad you asked
explain?
that.
Can you explain the thought process?
Yeah, I can try because I'll tell you what, I think a lot about this. All right. And there are certain improvisers out there who will go out and say, I don't know how I know how to do this. Sucks to suck. Like, which is like, I think unhelpful, but I also kind of see where they're coming from. Like I had to
Right.
really think about how it is I know how to do a lot of this. And I'll tell you one thing. I think a lot of my practice these days is not technical, but psychological. And I have to really focus on just like getting into the music and not letting other things sort of get in the way. So I tell my students all the time about the three brains that we have. We have our brains, and we have our ear brains, and we have our finger brains. And I try to make my brain do as little as humanly possible. So I
Ah.
only have flashes of brain things, basically. So, like for example, my forebrain is keeping track of where I have cadenced and making sure that I don't cadence twice in the same place. And if I do, that it was sort of the beginning and ending of a section. So I'm pretty sure I cadenced twice in E minor. I might have avoided it. I'd certainly at some point I remember I've already cadenced here. And I don't remember what I decided, if I decided to just let it happen or if I avoided. I probably actually, one of my favorite moves is to avoid it by, instead of going sharp three, I'll play flat three. So what you would expect, but instead I'll do something like that. And that gets you up a fourth, right, which sort of takes you away. So I'm keeping track of that. Otherwise, I am sort of just letting it's a game of chicken with my fingers, and I'm sort of letting them do what they want to do, and I'm taking in information, and I'm listening to what I've played, and I'm composing the next few notes, and then executing that, and trying to avoid any conscious, oh, what do I do now? Right?
How far are you ahead of your fingers? So like in the sense that you're in the middle of something, maybe a sequence, maybe an idea. Do you have the next idea ahead of mine? Or you're like, are you already thinking a two or three kind of in terms of form? Because I know you're a great composer, and I know for you, composition and improvisation are kind of like they're related, right? I mean, they're
Oh,
obviously related.
absolutely,
So like
absolutely.
how far ahead are you in the form of your improvisation in the moment?
It's a very good question. I would say that it varies, but in general, I am honestly, I think on average, I'm probably right with it. I'm probably right with my
Mm.
fingers. Sometimes I'm behind my fingers, and I mean, like often actually, I will let my fingers sort of play something that I know is easy and sounds nice, and then basically kick that problem of how do I make this fit in the composition down the road, right? I mean, like you can actually you can, not randomly, okay, but you can build phrases putting pieces of things that will, excuse me, probably work together, and then kind of basically like offloading all the thoughts on how you would end the phrase. So like if I play, like I was letting my fingers lead most of that, basically. So
Right.
basically, in the second that I'm done with, only when I get there do I think of. And then I take that information and I think, okay, I'm here, and I know that this chord usually sounds good after this chord, so I'm going to let my fingers do it. And I know there are a number of chords that sound good after this chord, so we'll see what my fingers do. And I might go instead, right? And now I'm in a different key, and I think, okay, well now I'm here. So it's always this sort of ever-changing landscape of just keeping track of the salient bits, like where I've cadenced, and the type of figures I've used, just so that I don't sound redundant or that I'm wandering. But otherwise, it's actually mostly led by my fingers. I'm letting them do what I want. My ear is taking that in and putting out a few options, and my fingers are kind of just picking one of those tracks, and the cycle repeats.